Hello, and welcome to 5 for Friday for this first Friday in May 5th, 2023. Today we'll discuss big business decisions, a coming healthcare tsunami, fakes and untruths, struggles for women in business, and whether or not AI will take your job. Here at 5 for Friday, I take it as my mission to curate the massive volumes of news stories that you don't have time to read and share a bite-sized grouping of 5 stories in about 5 minutes. Let me do the hard work, sifting through and reading the news, so that I can share some topics that could impact you and your small business. Are you ready to get started with this week's topics? Then let's get going. We'll start with topic number 1, big business. Turns out, surprise, surprise, that big businesses are in no hurry for inflation to go away because it gives them the perfect excuse to hike their prices and boost their profit margins. Oil and gas companies like Exxon Mobil have mastered this, so perhaps we small business owners should be learning from them. In other big biz news, the Wall Street Journal reports that big employers are taking advantage of our government welfare system to keep wages low, like below living wages, since welfare programs help make up the difference. This really only helps the big business owners, and a little bit of a shock to me that it was reported in the Wall Street Journal. Big banks are threatening the livelihood of smaller banks since nervous investors are starting to move their savings to be safe from the next collapse. But college students are no longer interested in working for big tech since the layoffs make that seem a more risky venture than taking a chance on a smaller company. That could work in your favor. A few more stories in the newsletter, but this covers the key topics here. So moving on to our story number 2, a coming healthcare tsunami. Not my word. Why? Because the number of people going onto Medicare is going to more than double in the next 40 years, even while we have a shortage of doctors and an outdated system for medical residents that makes things even worse. Technology, including AI, might help address some of these issues, but we need to be sure we can trust it first. More details on this in the newsletter, so check that out. And finally, in healthcare, coming soon-ish, a science eye that can go on top of or inside your eyeball if you've got some vision issues. And this new high-tech eye could lead to even more Matrix-like changes in how we interact with the real world and the metaverse. Stay tuned for more on this story, which is to be continued in the dystopian future. All right, and with that, let's move on to story number 3, fakes and untruths. Not only can AI make it hard to tell real from fake news, photos, movies, and so forth, it turns out that there is also fake ChatGPT out there that is really malware designed to hack your computer and data. So don't just add AI tools willy-nilly to your laptop. And also be cautious with real chatbots, like Google's Bard, which its own employees are calling a pathological liar and worse than useless. Even more scary, the developers at Google don't really understand how Bard learns, and were surprised to find out that it taught itself how to speak Bengali. Lots of other AI and chatbot tools are out there. You can see some in the newsletter, but be sure to be on the lookout for Elon Musk's goal of Truth GPT, an AI tool that he wants to design so that it will be, quote unquote, unlikely to annihilate humans because we are an interesting part of the universe. Which sounds so much worse than the AI pioneer who was sounding alarm bells at AI because he's worried it could cause fake or fraudulent content to be created. Very interesting. All right, moving on to story number 4, women in business. Is our experience any different than men in this modern age? Recent news stories point to yes. First, a recent study shows that personality traits are used to prove that women are never quite right for leadership roles because of their age, parental status, body size, communication style, and a host of other reasons that don't seem to impact men. And another study shows that parenthood affects women's salaries for up to 10 years after birth, but not the salary of fathers. Of course, the high cost of healthcare certainly doesn't help that. Neither does the fact that large companies like Goldman Sachs are being accused of paying women less and promoting them less than men, or that a ChatGPT female avatar caused men to interact inappropriately with it. And the Wall Street Journal claims that women in science are doing all right in an op-ed, but I'd argue that the facts they share and don't share in this op-ed say otherwise. To look for that article. And now let's move on to our final story, story number 5. AI is coming for your job. So much in the news about this recently, mainly because several studies came out recently sharing that millions of jobs will be eliminated due to AI in the next 5 years. There's way more detail in the newsletter than I can squeeze into a 5-minute video, so let me do my best to sum up. routine jobs are in trouble, finance jobs are at risk, AI will destroy Hollywood, IBM is replacing human resources with AI, ChatGPT is replacing freelance writers, and it's also replacing contract cheaters who write essays for college students. But it could make some businesses way more productive and efficient, help small businesses build their own websites and create their own content. Some good and some bad, but the best advice is don't ignore AI and all the technology that is disrupting the world around us right now, or you will regret it. Finally, in the competition for the best euphemism ever, when SpaceX's Starship exploded on takeoff, it was explained by their Twitter account as a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. Brilliant. And that's it for today. Thanks for joining me for this week's 5 for Friday. If you're curious about the newsletter, which always has more details and individual stories than the video, then check out my website to request a free copy before you pay to subscribe. And as always, I hope you'll sign up to receive these videos directly from me or subscribe on YouTube so you can continue to hear about these signals of change that could impact your small business. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday.